Borderlands, with its now 5 entries to the main franchise, is the type of game that no matter what installment you pick, you can expect the same core game, but somehow in an almost different flavor of experience. Game after game, each one manages to do certain things better than the last, while at the same time keeping that core experience that on the lowest levels is addictive, and at the highest levels of the endgame cycle, utterly captivating. Entry after entry, there is always something each time that somehow makes the game stand out from its predecessors. And from the look of some of the early footage coming out of Borderlands 4, we could potentially be looking at yet another shakeup to the gameplay, while still being the recognizable game that barely takes a glance to register. So, in that spirit, I wanted to take a trip back and see what each individual Borderlands game, in my opinion, does the absolute best in the series. Minus maybe some of the more obvious points. I feel like best gameplay and best story are fairly easy to label here. So what does each Borderlands game do best in the series? Let's find out, and if you have your own list, let me know down below. I'd love to hear it. So, generally speaking here, the original Borderlands fell pretty far on my list after playing the sequel titles. It was the game that started it all, and there's really no taking that from it, but at the end of the day, for me, it does fall short of both Borderlands 2 and 3, and at times the pre-sequel and Tiny Tina's as well. But without a doubt in my mind, the original Borderlands does something far and away better than any of the other games in the series, and that's atmosphere. There is a grit to the original Borderlands that really can't be matched. While the goofy side of the game was definitely there in pieces, it felt at all times like a total wasteland shooter. And you, playing as the first Vault Hunter in the series, really get to feel like the up-and-coming warlord just blasting a name for yourselves up and down Pandora. Every gun you found, with minor exceptions, were these brutal hunks of steel and Badlands ingenuity, and there's just something about them that feels so cool to go back to every now and again. Yes, there are more powerful and arguably more fun weapons in the later entries, but here, even a standard shotgun has you feeling like a total, well, badass. And in all reality, that's just one aspect of the atmosphere of the original Borderlands. It also manages to really sell that wasteland aesthetic. Towns feel empty and truly struggling to survive. Finding a random NPC out in the larger world feels rare and weirdly scary, considering this crazy motherfucker seems to be surviving all on his own against the ravenous hordes of skags, racks, and psychotic bandits. And then you, as the Vault Hunter, braving Pandora pretty much alone, will encounter large, vast areas of nothingness, just long dirt roads and the occasional psycho-technical to attack you when you least expect it. And that emptiness of this dead world of Pandora is what makes those moments of ambush just feel like it fits so well. Whether it be you wanting to explore that cave, or following audio logs searching for that elusive red chest, or even you wandering into what looks like a rundown shack for batteries or whatever else the world is asking you for, you are suddenly set upon by skags or bandits, and I don't know how else to describe it, it just fits so well to the world that you're in. Even at the later stages of the game, when you have to deal more with Atlas military enemies, it somehow still feels perfectly made for this world. They are not here to help Pandora. They are here for the vault and the artifacts it can provide, and they will likely kill anyone or anything in order to achieve that mission. I do think, without a doubt, the atmosphere of the original Borderlands is unmatched and really begs the question of what the series could have been had it stuck to more of the Wasteland Warrior aesthetic versus where we find ourselves today. Speaking of, so I don't think it would be a big stretch to say Borderlands 2 has the best story out of the main games. Objectively speaking, it does end to end, with maybe the pre-sequel coming in close behind it, but that feels boring to just regurgitate for the 10th time. So really, what does Borderlands 2 do better than the other games? Well, when I think about it, I'm gonna have to say the characters. Vault Hunters to NPCs, Borderlands 2 kinda cleans house in terms of its roster. And yes, Jack is a major part of this. Jack is one of those all-timer characters that is utterly unforgettable and captures every single moment he gets to be on screen. And really, Jack doesn't have all that much physical screen time. He's mostly a disembodied voice or a picture on the screen at bare minimum. But Jack, his personality and how much of an utterly amazing villain he is only one of the characters at the end of the day for Borderlands 2. The game boasts an entire lineup of characters new and returning from the first game, and BL2 takes the time to flesh out so many of them. This was something that was completely missing from the first game. Sure, you met Scooter in the original Borderlands, but did you meet Scooter? No, not really. Borderlands 2 introduces him as the crazy hopped-up mechanic we all came to love. And it's the same with Moxie, Ellie, Zed, Marcus, Tina, Face McShooty, Angel, and so many others. On top of that, Borderlands 2 manages to reintroduce us to the Vault Hunters from the original game and give them some much-needed personality. In all reality, we didn't know much about Lilith or Roland, Mordecai, or Brick. We kinda just existed as them. Here in Borderlands 2, we get to see what they've been up to and see what they're all about. What's kinda nuts the more I think about it is Borderlands 2 manages to introduce every character perfectly through what amounts to a 3-second name card. It's essentially a PowerPoint slide. And they all fit so damn well. You know from the second you see it roughly what this person is going to be all about, and should you want more from the character or deep dive into their own personal plight on Pandora, the side objectives do an amazing job providing you all the info you could ever need. I think it's fair to say that Borderlands 2 essentially defined the game through its characters. So many of the traits that appeared in the second game have carried on throughout the series, whether any or all of the cast make an appearance. So many of them have become utterly unforgettable because of this game, and I think that's something that's overlooked a bit simply because the story is just that damn good as well. It's not to say the gameplay isn't. In all reality, Borderlands 2 almost had too much going for it. But what it does well, it does fantastic, and what it does fantastic is entirely unforgettable. Okay, on to what was weirdly the hardest one for me to lock down. While I do think the pre-sequel is good, it's not my favorite, mostly due to its life cycle being cut extremely short, resulting in a real lack of endgame. But this one required a bit of thought from me. What does it truly do better than any of the games before it? And that's weirdly a tall order considering it follows what may be the best game in the series. The innovations were cool, I'll give it that, and the zero-G combat and setting were a lot of fun, but I don't think that necessarily sets it over the edge. A lot of games had a lot of different innovations between Borderlands 2, 3, and Wonderlands. No, if I think I have to give the better than any other title to the pre-sequel, I think it's gonna have to be for the pacing. Give me some rope on this one. The sheer amount of information and backstory the game provides to Jack, Lilith, and Roland, hell, even to all of the events of the second game, the pre-sequel manages to do it fantastically and in the shortest Borderlands game to date. It kind of provides a little bit of everything. Jack's rise to the CEO of Hyperion, to the reason for his utter hatred for the Crimson Raiders, and specifically Lilith and Roland, considering the end of the game, and some additional information to a whole host of other characters we met in the second game. Truth be told, I often find myself flip-flopping on which story is truly the better one out of the pre-sequel and Borderlands 2, but Borderlands 2 tends to win it out in the end because I'm not entirely sure if the pre-sequel story is so amazing because of the info you get in BL2 or in spite of it. Honestly, I gotta find someone who hasn't played the second game and have them start with the pre-sequel and just see what happens. I need answers, don't judge me. But no, in the end, I think the pre-sequel, if it does anything the best in the series, it has to be the pacing for me. I think if memory serves, there's about one-ish chapter that feels a bit out of left field, but other than that, it's extremely concise and provides an immense amount of information in a relatively short time. Meanwhile, Borderlands 2, while the story is truly amazing, there are some left turns here and there, while relevant to the story, on subsequent playthroughs feel a bit fluffy and drawn out. I don't know if that makes sense. Look, the pre-sequel was a hard one, and it's the best I could think of. Anyway. So, as I have spent more time with the series as a whole, I have come to, well, the rather obvious conclusion that of all the Borderlands games, BL3 by far has the best gameplay, objectively speaking. It's the smoothest and the most responsive, and overall just an amazing experience. Now, obviously, I couldn't just go with that. Oh, really? Borderlands 3 has the best gameplay in the series thus far? Wow, truly stunning and brave on that opinion. So let's make it interesting. So, barring what we already know about the game, the one thing I think Borderlands 3 does better than all the rest thus far, God, it's gotta be the endgame. And I love the endgame of Borderlands 2. Personally, it's my favorite and it will remain there, but realistically, Borderlands 3 has it beat in a lot of places. Accessibility is the big one. BL3's endgame is by far easier, 1, to get to, and 2, actually to participate in. Essentially, it follows complete your story run, level to max level, and begin your mayhem ranks. With the added bonus that once you do hit max level, you unlock the option to make a new max level character with the story completed for you. So if you want to change your flavor of Vault Hunter, that's easy enough. And from there, once you are onto the mayhem levels themselves, they aren't the hardest thing in the world to cap out, whether you follow quicker routes or just want to wing it. And once you finally hit Mayhem 11, well, you are free to farm, raid, and slaughter as much as your heart desires. Meanwhile, in Borderlands 2, you have to complete 3 full playthroughs, each subsequent getting harder and harder just to access the real endgame. Now, TVHM and UVHM is a feature I really love, and I'm crossing my fingers to see it return, but I am not blind to the fact that it's a big ask for any player. Then, once you have completed all 3 playthroughs, you now have the OP levels to contend with on DigiPeak, a monumentous amount of farming and testing if you really don't want to follow any guides, and then it culminates with the raid bosses as the true endgame. And unfortunately, as you go up in OP levels, some of these raid bosses break and become nearly impossible to kill alone unless you learn some funky interactions or, in some cases, outright bugs. Now, I want to be clear, this is fun to me. I love every second of BL2's endgame, but I can't deny that it's not exactly accessible to everyone who just picked up the game for a weekend. It can be a lot, and if you decide halfway through you don't want to play that Vault Hunter anymore, well, you gotta start from the beginning again. BL3's endgame, on the other hand, felt like the bones and core of it was made with the more casual Borderlands players in mind. They could get in and see everything it has to offer, whereas BL2 more often feels like it was aimed at some of the more serious players, especially when we are talking about the very end of the endgame taking out the OP10 raid bosses. And that's not to say that BL3 doesn't have something for the more dedicated player. The Proving Grounds, notably the True Trial variants, are really tough to work out, as well as hard mode takedowns. Borderlands 3 wins the endgame battle for me, mainly due to the accessibility, but also because everyone can find something regardless of how devoted or casual you are with the experience. Kinda great fun for everybody. Wonderlands. Okay, I have my gripes with Wonderlands, specifically relating to the endgame and the Chaos Chambers, but in the same breath, I have a lot to love about the game outside of that one specific feature. So, in my mind, undeniably, there is one thing that Wonderlands does that keeps me coming back time after time just to run through the story again for the 5th time and feel like I'm getting a brand new experience with each one. For me, Wonderlands does playthrough variety better than any other in the series simply because of its multi-spec class design and the implementation of actual melee weapons. That multi-spec is the real winner of the game for me. It adds so damn much with each playthrough just simply by picking a main spec and after hitting the threshold, getting to pair it with any of the other available options. It opens the door for so many weird and interesting builds. Some an absolute heaven of synergy and others just a goofy ass build that doesn't really make any sense, but it just works. And hey, not all of them are super overpowered. Hell, some of these classes don't play well together, but it creates a new experience with every combination. It changes how I approach encounters, bosses, or even if I use certain weapons because I can't really capitalize on certain effects. Then, on top of that, they threw in actual melee-based weapon drops that can turn any of these spec combos into a full-on melee fighter. Okay, yeah, sure, some of them work a lot better than others, that I won't deny, but I can't fight the fact that even on classes I built specifically for long-range encounters, I'd have to at least give the Whackfest a shot every now and again and just see what I could pull off. I really don't think you can beat Wonderlands on the sheer amount of variety you can get just from simply respecking or starting over with a new base. Each game before this had the choice of a single Vault Hunter who did 1 or 2 things exceptionally well, and a handful of things just kinda okay. Take Salvador, for example. Sure, you can make a melee Salvador build, but in all reality, not capitalizing on Gun Zerk, say with Deputy Sal or hell even Unkempt Grog, feels a bit wasteful. And I mean, realistically, at the deep endgame, there's like 1 or 2 builds you can use if you want to consistently take out raid bosses, so there's that. But back in Wonderlands, in the almost off-putting endgame, sorry, that actually sounds more harsh than I intended it to be, but it almost pushes the player to just jump in for another run on a new character with a new build, and when you finish the game, hell, if you had fun, just do it again. It's wide open, and literally anything you try will most likely work. Sure, it might be in varying degrees of efficiency, but hell, it's still fun. And you know, you can't really beat that, to be honest with you. It is a shame about the endgame though. God, the game had so much potential. Well, that's about it from me. Hey, if you have your own list of what each Borderlands game does the best in your opinion, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Oh, and I know I left out the Telltale Borderlands games, but yeah, they're gonna get their own video because I just finished New Tales and story for another time. Anyway, see ya.